Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Ball and All podcast. My name is Mpho, and I this is your basketball podcast. We discuss all things basketball Africa League, WNBA, um, NBA, which is starting tomorrow with NBA 75. If you haven't caught my NBA podcast, my episode, please go to Anchor at the Ball and All podcast, or even on Apple. We're live there. We're on there. Or go to YouTube and check for the previous episode. I did a whole basketball tiers for my NBA 75, which teams are where. And so we're covering that in this episode, or in that episode, and then we'll let's have the discussion and let's push it through there. Today, what I wanted to talk about is the WNBA Finals. We have a champion, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Chicago Sky. They have won their first ever WNBA title in the league's 25-year history. So it's really nice that in WNBA 25 years, you get a new champion. Really, really amazing. Congratulations to James Wade, who becomes the third black man to win a WNBA title as a coach. Congratulations to Candace Parker, who wins her second championship to go with all her accolades. But most importantly, I think one of the biggest congratulations goes out to Kalia Copper, who won Finals MVP. We're going to discuss that final game 3 and game 4 in this episode. Game 3 went down very easy. It was quite interestingly, because obviously Phoenix and you could say that the calendar could have hurt Phoenix a lot more, because Chicago qualified for the finals. Essentially, you could say that they advanced to the finals, and they had more days rest and more days to travel back home, whereas Phoenix on the Friday played their game 5 against the Aces in Las Vegas. They had to fly back home to Phoenix on Saturday, because the finals were starting on Sunday, and not Sunday evening, Sunday midday, or Sunday midday West Coast time, 3 p.m. 3 p.m. time. So it was an afternoon game, and the first game of the finals was pretty much one-sided. The team that had more rest and more energy won the game. The Chicago Sky blitzed it. And then you kind of were waiting for a response. Yes, Phoenix were injured in game 1. They didn't have much of a response. Game 2, Sophie Cunningham comes back. Kia Nurse was still out, but they managed to come back through. The big 3 stepped up. Skylar Diggins-Smith-Tarasi, and so did Brittany Griner. And they got that. They evened the series out. The only problem about the way these series go is that the moment the underdog, the team who plays at home second, splits the series, splits the first 2 games, the home court advantage goes back to them, because essentially you need to win all your home games, and that's how it's set up. Chicago did that. They cleaned them. They cleaned them out. How? High energy in game 3. In that first half in game 3, they blitzed them. Kalia Copper scored 20 points. It was just unbelievable basketball to behold. Chicago was just everywhere. Vandersloot was carving them up in the pick and roll. The defense of Phoenix didn't settle, and that was one of the key things we spoke about in the previous episode and pod, discussing how game 3 was, that the Phoenix defense has to set. They need to play a lot better and a little bit more physically, whereas on offense, Phoenix had to make the Chicago defense work, and in game 3 it didn't. There were easy laps for Kalia Copper. I think Kalia Copper scored 24 points. 6 of those points came out of the 3-point zone from the perimeter. The rest were inside. She took three shots outside on the perimeter. Everything else was in and around the basket. Phoenix were losing offensive rebounds. They were out-rebounded by Chicago. Defensively, Stephanie Dawson and Azurá Stevens could give single coverage looks, so man-on-man looks on Brittany Griner. No double teaming this time from Phoenix. They did have the help defender, which was Candace Parker. She was really great as a help defender. She always clogged lanes whenever there were lanes, and Phoenix had no answer. Move over. And so they lost, like it was 86-50 in game 3. Chicago blew them away across every part of the floor. Come to this game, normally Phoenix responds really well, and they did. They started off really well. Brittany Griner scored 18 points in the first three quarters. They ran away with game four. It looked like they were running away with game four. They led by 9 points coming into the fourth quarter. And in that fourth quarter, everything changed. Everything changed. Chicago, and this is what we've seen throughout the playoffs with Chicago, they go down, they come back. They're a great team from behind. They played really, really well to try and they pushed Connecticut, even in the games that Connecticut won, they pushed Connecticut to the brink every time. They took it close. Every game Connecticut won was like a one possession game because of the team that they have. Chicago got calm because you're expecting as I've always spoken, it's a heavyweight contest. You're expecting your opponent to come back at you, and Phoenix did. Taurasi was playing well in the first three quarters. Diggin Smith was driving to the basket. Brittany Griner was she scored 28 points in the game. She was game high from both teams. However, in game four, and 18 of those points were in the first three quarters. She was that good. This Dawson and Azurá Stevens were struggling. But in the fourth quarter, things changed. Chicago's defense had another gear. And that's the difference between Chicago, Connecticut, and Phoenix right now, was that every time they seemingly their opponents found another gear, Chicago could always turn it up a notch on both ends. Defensively, they were stout. They held Brittany Griner higher up, away from the low block. So whenever Brittany Griner got the ball, it was slightly further away from the basket, and they were happy to give her those turnaround jumpers. Those stopped falling in the fourth quarter. An easy basket because unlike Chicago, Candace Parker can play the five. So you have two bigs down court, whereas Phoenix only have one. Kia Vaughn is there, and they did try to give us a lot of Kia Vaughn looks instead of Brittany Turner to try and match height on height, because Parker was just getting rebounds, offensive and defensive. Whenever Griner put up a shot defensively, Parker would get it. And then the perimeter defense, Kalia Copper, Ali Quigley, Courtney Vandersloot were moving around that perimeter. What hurt Phoenix is that they stopped moving the ball. They got a lot stagnant in the thing, very reliant on Diana Taurasi giving her the ball. I would give her the ball too. She's the GOAT. I get it. But she was missing. She wasn't making a lot of shots. Sophie Cunningham wasn't on fire tonight. Skylar Diggins-Smith wasn't getting joy road driving in because Candace Parker kept on clogging the lanes as the help defender. And Skylar Diggins-Smith gets a lot of contact. She's been to the free throw line in the regular season by most of anybody in the WNBA this season. So you expected a lot of those. But Chicago came back. They got stopped. What you need when you're down 7 points, they were down 7 points by 4:42 to go in the fourth quarter. And they just got stops. They got 3 consecutive stops in a row. They went back onto the other side, and they sealed it with a beautiful 3. They cleared. They took the lead with 2-point lead with a beautiful 3 from Candace Parker. They moved the ball. Vandersloot was punishing them with her and Dawson in the pick and roll. They bring Brittany Griner up in the pick and roll, and then Courtney Vandersloot would take Brittany Griner to the basket and then dish it whichever way you want it. Like, she was underhand, behind the back. Courtney Vandersloot getting it to Steph Dawson, and Steph would put it through in the basket. Some really bunny layups there. Diana Taurasi did respond with she was fouled on the 3-point line. She scored all 3 of her free throws, and they came within 1. And then Chicago just blew them away again. Great defense, incredible offense with the pick and roll. It was really, really nice to see Courtney Vandersloot dominate them. She averaged a double-double in assists and points throughout the finals. 10 points. It was 10.5 points, 11.5 assists, and also 5 rebounds. I would have picked her as my finals MVP because of that. Kalia Copper averaged 17 points. She was the highest point scorer across both teams. She deserves all the praise. Just as a second to look at other more all-round performances, Courtney Vandersloot. Chicago would not be champions there without Courtney Vandersloot. The other thing I spoke about earlier podcast was how the other players outside of the big 3 for big teams. So obviously the big 3 for Chicago is Copper, Vandersloot, Parker, how Dawson or Stevens at the 5, and also Ali Quigley or even Diamond DeShields at the 2. as the shooting guards would play, because obviously a lot of pressure would be on the big three and half the side. Today, Ali Quigley, in a game where Chicago wasn't scoring well in the first three quarters, she maintained the scoring. She ended up with, I think, 26 points in the game. She just was unstoppable. They had no answer to her. And to a certain extent, that's how this game went down. Went down to them allowing, like you as a coach, you kind of set up your team to kind of meet, to allow Ali Quigley to try beat you, and she did beat them today. The Chicago team is built, was built for the playoffs. Regular season, they were 500, 16 wins, 16 losses. They started with 2 wins in their first 9 games. They were 2-7. Then they went on a run to get themselves 10-10 by the time the Olympic break came up, and they even split after the Olympic break 6-6. They had a lot of injuries. Candace Parker was injured at the start of the season, and they had a few injuries here and there. But the Chicago team went through the playoffs. They've seen every game in the playoffs. First round, I think they came up against Dallas. They beat them then. Then they went on to play. Connecticut, who were the regular season. They broke the regular season franchise record. They beat them then with MVP Jonquel Jones on the court and Dewana Bonner and all the big names that you have at Connecticut, who will still probably be the favorites next season to win the thing. They beat them. And then, and when we thought they had a mismatch in the front court, that was the thing. I thought Chicago was Connecticut had the advantage in the front court because they were just the bigger team. But Chicago and their backcourt and they're shooting from three and their pace and everything else. And that's what Chicago did. That fourth quarter was just a high pace fourth quarter compared to the other three quarters. And what you saw was at a high pace, Chicago make turnovers, the same amount as Phoenix in that fourth quarter. However, Chicago made Phoenix pay. Just like in Game 3, Chicago made Phoenix pay on the same amount of turnovers that they conceded, and that is the reason why Chicago are champions today. It's a high pace. They play it very quickly, and they want it like that because that's the only way that they can beat teams. They can outscore teams very quick. It's like a blitzkrieg. You can go through periods where they score 10 and I think in this game they went 10 points. Went 9 points in that fourth quarter, in the space of like 2 minutes. And effectively killed the game. They got back. They were down by 7. They got 9 points quickly, and they started trading busts with Phoenix, and then they had another blitzkrieg there. And it all starts from defense. Transition play has always been great. They got a little sloppy towards the end, but I think everyone was tired. But congratulations to the Chicago. They really did win. They really did deserve, true, because they went through the whole of the playoffs. They didn't wait buys. They were a middling team. I think it's the first time in WNBA history where a team literally at like a 6th seed made it through into the championship. So in this new format. So really congratulations to them. Really great end to the 25th season of WNBA. Looking forward to number 26. I hope to see more franchises. I'll probably even hope to see more minutes. I think the one thing I want to see is the ladies play 48 minutes. I think that would be really lovely to see, to kind of get more out of. And it adds a little bit of a dimension to coaching, and also maybe some other bench players might get a lot more game time there. But from myself, Mpho, that's the end of the Ball All podcast. Talking WNBA, we're going to be back at the end of the week talking NBA, number 75. But what a great season was. Congratulations to everybody. Kathy Engelbert, really, really great show you put up. And we look forward to many more in seasons. And I'll be talking about them as long as there is Wi-Fi and YouTube and everything else. I'll be talking about the WNBA. Follow me on Twitter at Mpho Moreki, MPHO, as well as on Instagram. But outside of that, after that incredible season, congratulations to this guy again, Candace Parker, CP3. We got you. Well done. And for myself, good night and goodbye. And le sale kakahiso.